Hey fellas, is Friday the 13th Part 2 the most important sequel in the franchise? Now, it's no secret that the original Friday the 13th was no masterpiece, but that didn't stop it from getting a bunch of sequels anyway. But out of all those follow-ups, is Part 2 the most important? We'll talk about that later, but first, we're gonna have to take a look at the film. Now, if you only want to hear the answer and the review, feel free to skip to the timestamp down below. But if you want the full Crystal Lake catalyst, well, without further ado, fellas and fellettes, my name is Stache, and this is Friday the 13th Part 2. We open on a shot of a neighborhood with a little boy playing before he's called inside by his mother. He's upset, but it turns out to be a good thing, for he's in the path of a Vorhees. The J-Man's here, and he's very off-screen, but fun fact, this is the only time Jason has been played by a woman. Speaking of woman, we pan to where they are going and see that it's the home of Alice Hardy. She's the final girl from the last one, and we get to watch her dream about that time she killed Jason's mom at summer camp, you know, like you do. Little known fact here, but the reason that Alice is dressed in more green is because getting more green is the reason the studio made this movie. Alice wakes up and does a whole bunch of nothing for 10 minutes until she gets quite peckish and opens her refrigerator only to find Mama Vorhees' decapitated head. She tries to figure out how long she should microwave it for as Jason stabs her in the temple with her ice pick. Talk about being killed in cold blood. Also, like, why does she have that? One explosive title card and some very intense credits later, we're back in Crystal Lake with Sandra and Jeff. And Ralph, that asshole who interrupted me last time? You're all doomed. Ralph! He leaves as Jeff's truck is towed. They chase after the tow truck and try to get it back. This is my truck! Yeah, dude, I think he knows. Surprisingly, admitting guilt to illegal parking did not get him off the hook, but don't worry, it's just a prank, bro. Their friend Ted was totally pranking them. Ted hops in the car with him and they drive until they find a tree in the road.
Where'd this sucker come from?
Gee, I wonder how a tree got in the woods. And just like that, they make it to the Packanack Lodge. Camp Counselor Training. Camp ran by Big Man Paul Holt. There's a bunch of other people here too, like Terry, creepy-ass Scott, Mark and his girlfriend Vicky, and Paul's walking HR assistant, Ginny, who has a POS car, so he helps her fix it.
Use a little of that child psychology you're majoring in.
Man, I sure hope that clunky-ass line won't be important later. After the car's fixed, Ginny drives right into a Star Wars transition to later that night when everyone is around a campfire with Paul telling them about Jason Voorhees. But don't worry, everybody, he's just a myth. Holy shit, he's real. Everybody run. Paul, what are you doing? Don't go up to him. Wait. Ted, another epic prank? Oh, you goofy goober, you. Someone get this man a vlog channel. Ted puts his props away. That's a real spear, by the way. Just sitting there for anyone to take. And Ginny gets tired and tries to go to bed, but Paul follows her and the two embrace. Things get creepy when someone watches from the outside, and it turns out to be Ralph. We saw him earlier when Ginny almost ran him over. If only her aim was better. Jason makes up for Ginny's bad KD ratio when he puts a wire around his neck and pins him against a tree, successfully choking him to death. The next day, everyone goes swimming as Jeff and Sandra sneak around the woods where Camp Crystal Lake used to be and find what's left of an animal. It's implied to be Muffin, Terry's dog, but like, it's not. Anyway, the couple carries on until this cop tells them to leave before going to yell at Paul a bunch. Now, if you're wondering what the cop's name is, so am I. He just doesn't have one. There's a novel or something that names him, but come on, I can't read. He drives off and sees the J-Man jaywalking. He mistakes him for a chicken and follows to ask why he crossed the road, stopping only to slick his hair back until he finds a shack. He goes inside, but Jason knows police officers need a warrant to enter your home. Fourth Amendment, baby! Back at the lodge, everyone leaves. Alright, if you don't got a name, get out. But if you're Ginny, Paul, or Ted, come on, ditch these lightweights, let's go drinking. After everyone's gone, Terry and this ominous shadow figure leave for a walk and a skinny dip as we are formally introduced to Mark and Vicky. Basically, Mark is insecure about being in a wheelchair, but Vicky doesn't care. She loves him anyway.
What do you want to play for?
Position.
After that bullshit, we go back to the lake and see that Terry's clothes are stolen by Scott's creepy ass, so she chases him until he gets caught in a trap. Terry runs off to get something to cut him with, but Jason shows up to cut him first. Oh, no, just the rope. Oh, whatever. That was a perv anyway. Terry comes back and runs around before getting freeze-framed. Now, if the first movie taught me anything, it's safe to say that she's dead. Back at the lodge, Mark looks around for Vicky, but he doesn't find her. Instead, he finds this machete right in his face. But that's not enough, so his chair rolls back down a massive flight of stairs. Who wrote this shit? And intercourse scene that you fucks aren't going to be able to see because, trigger warning, this actress is underage. Yep, Hollywood may be fine with that, but I'm not. And neither is Jason. Speaking of Jason, he takes a stand and stabs that spear right through the both of them, ending them both. Let this be a lesson to properly store your spears. One political commentary later, we go back to Vicky as she gets ready to meet Mark in bed. But Mark isn't in the bed. Jason is. In our first full view of the J-Man, we get to witness him get grumpy that his nappy sleep time is interrupted, so he first-persons his way into stabbing Vicky right in the off-screen. That's gonna leave a mark. After my studio audience calms down and back at the bar, Ginny, Paul, and Ted talk about Jason, and Ginny uses a bit of that child psychology she's majoring in to analyze how Jason would think. She says that since he came close to drowning as a kid and has been lost in the woods ever since, he'd probably still have the mind of a child. Man, I'm sure this Chekhov's gun will not fire by the third act. Paul and Ted could not give less of a shit, so Ginny asks Paul to take her home, so they go, only to find the place cleared out and powerless. They look around for literally anyone, but only find this dark room. Oh, hey, there's someone. Yo, Paul, there's someone in this fucking room! I just got rid of Ralph's interrupting ass. I do not need you pulling that shit too. Jason attacks Paul and the two scuffle a bunch and yo, Paul gives Jason the business, but it ends up not being enough because eventually Jason is able to knock Paul out and stand up in a shot that I fuck with heavy. He chases Ginny and a bunch of things happen, like Jason stabbing a door, Ginny jumping out of a window, yada yada, until she makes it out to her car, but once a POS, always a POS because it won't start yet again. And as if that wasn't bad enough, Jason forks it up even more. Now, Ginny's insurance doesn't cover pitchforks, so she dogs Jason's ass and runs away to hide in a bush until he gets close enough for her to kick him in the balls to slow him down. Ginny keeps running as Jason teleports around her. He could just do that, by the way. It's easier if you don't question it. She runs so far that she eventually finds Jason's cabin from before and goes inside. You know, I probably wouldn't go in the evil death shed, but hey, what do I know? I know that I fuck with this shot heavy. That's what I know. After noticing that he's still chasing her, Ginny locks herself in Jason's mama's shrine room. Oh, hey, it's Terry, and finds Pam's sweater. She decides to use a little bit of that child psychology she's majoring in and puts on the sweater to trick him into thinking that she's his mother. It works, and Jason starts not being able to tell if she's really his mom. He lets her get close and falls to his knees, but once he sees her raise a machete and notices his mom's head, yep, still off, he realizes that Ginny is not really his mom. He attacks because identity theft is not a joke, Jin, but before he could hurt her too much, Paul Holt's bum ass comes out of nowhere to save her. Paul gives Jason the business yet again, which gives Ginny just enough time to grab that machete and bring it down upon Jason's shoulder as hard as she can. This is the blow that takes Jason down, ending his reign of terror until tomorrow. Did you guys know that the second, third, and fourth movies take place over 5 days? Neat, right? Paul and Ginny are not amused by my knowledge of the Friday lore, so they leave to go back to the lodge. There, Ginny lays down as her and Paul hear a noise at the door. They brace themselves for attack, but it's only Muffin. See, I told you she's not dead. And speaking of things not being dead, a maskless Jason leaps through the window and goes to attack Ginny. But as he does that, Ginny wakes up. It's not explained what happened, ever, but on the bright side, when she wakes up, Jason's nowhere to be found. But neither are Paul and Muffin, so you win some, you lose some, I guess. To round everything out, we go back to Jason's cabin and zoom in on Mrs. Voorhees' head, and that's it. Overall, Friday the 13th Part 2 is definitely a massive step up from the original, but is it the most important sequel in the franchise? To find that out, we're gonna have to take a look at what this movie did for the rest of the series. First off, it helped to develop the style of the Friday the 13th movies. This film helped to change the tone of the series from being a whodunit mystery to becoming a full-blown slasher. Let's face it, the mystery element of the first Friday the 13th was very underbaked. It was like sitting in a cozy little restaurant only to look down and see that your steak is raw. None of the ideas were fleshed out enough, which ended up making the final reveal very underwhelming, to say the least. Now, rather than strengthening the weaker aspects of its predecessor, Part 2 instead reinforced the best of the original and removed all of the unnecessary parts. Meaning that rather than fixing the mystery aspect, it removed it and strengthened the kills and setting of the original. This decision allowed the sequel to excel far further than the first one, while maintaining the same small town feel. The scrappy amateur feel helps to make the kills land harder, which works well because this is the movie that defined what deaths in the Friday the 13th franchise would look like. If you watched my review of Part 1, you'll know that I felt for a Friday film, the kills were pretty lackluster and boring. So I'm extra super mega happy to report that this isn't the case for Part 2. The kills in this one were way more creative. Rather than disappearing and being found dead later, the cast of this movie mostly have fun and entertaining deaths. As I say this, I'm thinking of the upside down trap kill, the wheelchair stair fall, and the double spearing. These kills help to lay the foundation for future Fridays to explore creative ways to people. I mean, seriously, who's the sicko that pictured a guy in a wheelchair falling down a gazillion steps, and why don't they have a statue? Without the creativity behind these deaths, it is very unlikely that future Friday films would have the over-the-top kills that they do, which wouldn't be good because this series is known for its overly graphic and extreme deaths. So, while it may seem tame now, deaths like the wheelchair fall were monumental not only for this film, but for every Friday the 13th movie. Though the kills in this movie don't feel as real as those in the first one, I don't really think that's a major issue. After all, you watch movies to suspend your disbelief, not to reinforce it. But suspending your disbelief is a lot harder when the movie seems to fight you when you try to do it. There's no doubt that this movie is messy. It's still a low-budget 80s slasher. Enough said. And on top of that, it doesn't really feel like a Friday the 13th film, which is weird because it meets the quota. Masked killer? Check. Fun kills? Check. Final girl that will never be seen again? Check. But it's just missing the cherry on top, you know? And the cherry on top of the Friday the 13th franchise is the big guy himself, J-Man Voorhees. Sure, he's in this movie, but to put it bluntly, Jason doesn't really feel like Jason here. Sure, he's a massive brute hell-bent on killing teens, but it's the 80s. Every guy over 6'2" with a mask was doing that. I mean, when you think of Jason Voorhees, you without a doubt think of his haunting presence. That feeling of dread that appears behind you, like breath creeping down your neck that makes your hair stand up, only for you to turn around and see that there's no one there. That's Jason Voorhees. But he doesn't have that here. He feels like a ripoff in his own movie. Unlike most people, I don't really have an issue with his outfit here. I think that it's a decent design for a slasher, and it's memorable in its own way, because they stole it. My main issue with this movie's Jason lies within his character. In this one, he's very bland, to say the least. He's missing his personality. There's nothing here that screams Jason Voorhees to me. Honestly, they could have put Mrs. Voorhees here, and I don't think much would have changed. One of my biggest gripes with this iteration of Jason also happens to be something that I really like. That being the fact that they tried to tap into the psychology of Jason Voorhees. I find it interesting to see how he thinks. And honestly, it makes total sense that he would still have the mind of a child and would easily be controlled or manipulated or whatever. But later on in the franchise, Jason becomes this unfeeling husk of a man. He doesn't flinch at pain and doesn't care about anyone or anything besides taking revenge. He is an indestructible force of death who won't stop until his job is done. So seeing him fall to his knees at the sight of his mother feels very strange. I can't be too harsh on Jason's character because this was his first appearance and that vibe wasn't established yet, but it still feels uncanny to have that aura not be there. But it's not all negative. I already said that I like Jason's outfit, but I also think that this movie establishes the general idea of Jason Voorhees very well. Big guy, misses his mom, hates teenagers. On the money. This mindset will stay with the character for the rest of the series. A+ template. But even the best sandwiches are bad if the bread's soggy. I think that this movie would have been improved if Jason was as cartoony as he is later on. He's missing that iconic strength that the character's known for. I mean, in every movie, Jason does at least one thing that makes the audience go, holy shit, how'd he do that? But this movie doesn't have that. And before we wrap it up, side note here, but Jason goes down way too easily in this one. Kicked in the nuts, a machete in the shoulder, you're Jason Voorhees, dude. And I didn't even mention Jenny Undertakering his ass yet. Yeah, turns out before hockey, Jason's side hustle was getting super slammed. So, to sum it all up, while this movie has its issues, it also brought the franchise fun kills, made it a full-on slasher, gave us Jason, and showed us that there was more around Crystal Lake than just the camp. All of these ideas would be fundamental for every sequel after this movie. Without it, most, if not all of those sequels would be very different and would not be Friday the 13th as we know them. So after all that, I'm willing to say yes, Friday the 13th Part 2 is the most important Friday sequel in the franchise. No, it's not the most entertaining, and it doesn't really feel like a Friday film, but it planted the seed that will grow into possibly the biggest horror series ever. Without it, Friday the 13th probably wouldn't have become the iconic series that it is, meaning that the world would not have a Jason Voorhees. And without him, the horror genre as a whole would be a very different place. So taking all that into account, Friday the 13th Part 2 gets a 75 out of 100 on the Stache-ometer. In mustache terms, that's well groomed. Now, before you go, fun fact, Steve Dash, the actor who played Jason in this movie, has said that once he put on that burlap sack, he could barely see anything out of it, meaning that he was swinging around real sharp objects without seeing if he would hit anything. That's like crazy dangerous. And I think if you're gonna do something, you should at least be able to watch what you're doing. And if you like watching things, you should subscribe so you could watch all the videos that I put out. Seriously though, hit that subscribe button. If you made it this far, you either liked the video or you got a burlap sack on your head and you can't see where the off button is. Either way, subscribe. And take that sack off, you look ridiculous. I'll let you go do that, but until then, drink responsibly, hug your dog, and comment your thoughts down below. I'm really curious, do you think the Friday films would have gone down a similar path without Part 2? I'll be sure to read your comments from my murder cabin. I'll see you next time. Stache out.